Design thinking. Have you heard this term design thinking before? I'm sure you must have. After all, it is the buzzword these days. And you might have wondered what design thinking is. Is it a designerly way of thinking? In one way, yes, you have guessed it correct. It is a thinking process that designers use to arrive to the solution for whatever problem situation that they are working at. And I'm very sure that you all are very curious to know more about it. And what could be the best way to learn more about it than to listen to the experiences and stories from design thinking practitioners themselves? So let's meet design thinkers in this series of Creatively Alive with Roopali Pankaj. Welcome to all of you to the new episode of Creatively Alive with Roopali Pankaj. So today we have a very special guest, Mugdha, with us, and a very warm welcome to you, Mugdha. I would just like to share a few things about Mugdha. She has a very interesting journey in her professional life. She started it as a technical copywriter, actually not technical writer, but a copywriter with an advertising agency. That is how she started. And today what she is very interesting, like she has switched in from advertising to software, and she worked as technical writer and information architect, and she also got trained in design thinking, and that is why she is here with us today, that she would just share her thoughts about how was her interaction with the process, and what is it that how it impacted her actually. So I would just like Mugdha to introduce and to just share few things about you, so that the viewers will get to know more about you and your journey.
Sure, Rupali. First of all, thanks so much for inviting me on your podcast. It's really interesting the kind of experiments you're doing.
Thank you
Um,
so much.
Not just in creativity, in design thinking and in education, and the way you are training young minds. That's amazing. And
Thank you
it's
so much.
just lovely to see your journey as well.
Thank you.
So, coming back to my journey,
Yes.
I did start as an advertising copywriter.
Mm-hmm.
I started writing in Marathi.
Mm.
And then from there, I shifted to English copywriting. And then I realized that the field of copywriting in Pune is
Mhm.
not going to grow after a certain point, and I would
Okay.
be stuck doing the same things again and again. There was
Mm-hmm.
a point when I was writing advertisements for like 13 builders and construction houses.
Wow.
And that was like, quite tiring to
Crazy.
write only about the concept of home or a
Mm-hmm.
house,
Mm-hmm.
and helping people sell the flats, but then flats or houses, but then you you end up killing your creativity in some ways,
Mm-hmm.
if you are stuck in that. Fortunately, advertising did grow a lot later
Mm.
in Pune.
Right.
I
Right.
could not see it. The impact of technology also added to the momentum, and
Right.
it has changed a lot. The
Now.
scenario looks
True.
pretty positive now.
Right.
But yeah, there was a time when I was not sure how
Hmm.
my growth
Hmm.
will be as a professional. So I shifted to IT industry as a technical writer,
Mm-hmm.
and I really loved this new job because I had to study a domain, I had to study products, I had to study technology, and then I had to make it easy for users who
Right.
are using that technology.
Right.
So
Right.
the easiest example is like, how you buy a car. and you may not know how the combustion engine works or
Right.
how the internal parts work for a
Exactly.
car.
Yes,
But then
yes.
as an owner, you are expected to know a few things about the car, which are then documented in the manual. And
Right.
then you are also given some illustrations, you are also given some videos sometimes
Right.
nowadays.
Right.
I remember one incident when I had visited a family friend to uh, we actually stayed with them for a couple of days, and they had taken us to a nice huge mall in Thane.
Okay.
And we went to that mall, I think Viviana or something,
Hmm.
and we went there in the parking lot, and
Hmm.
the BMW door
Hmm.
of this uncle's car, it
Hmm.
just won't close. We didn't know how to close it, and
Oh.
we did not know how the lock got activated. What happened, we did not know, but just one door was
Right.
not closing. And then I just in the parking lot itself, I googled for this information, and
Right.
I knew how to search for this information because everybody
You-
with me was old enough
Okay.
not to be very friendly with technology.
Technology.
So I got to be the hero there. And so I searched for it, looked at YouTube and showed them the video, and then that uncle could close the door. And he
Wow.
was like, that was pretty impressive. I said, this
Mhm.
is what I do for a living.
Got
So
it.
yeah,
Right.
so that's
Right.
actually been my journey. And
Interesting.
nowadays I don't write myself, but
Okay.
I only manage a team
Guide.
of writers.
Guide. Right.
And yeah, they are wonderful, so they don't really need a lot of guidance. So yeah,
Great. Great.
but yeah,
So
so
the
design
change
thinking, right?
actually, yes, yes,
Yeah.
design thinking, perfect. So yes, it as you mentioned, Mugdha, right? Initially, when you were doing it in advertising, you felt stuck because you were actually interacting with only one domain at that time.
Hmm.
Wherein this
Right.
new job gave you an opportunity. It wasn't for one particular domain, right? It must be
Right.
a change situation. So how having those different I won't say perspectives, but different domains to work at is so important for us to have that
I
variety.
lost.
And
Yeah,
yeah,
I
to
had
have,
lost your voice
okay,
for a minute. Yeah.
no problem. Technology, with technology we'll
Yeah.
face issues, but we know how to
Right.
overcome. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, so that variety in our life is so much important for to keep that creativity alive. Is I
True.
feel is one of the things, because even that was a creative field what you were doing there, but just because it was restricted only for one particular domain, you felt stuck. Even when
Exactly.
you were right doing the same thing again
Um,
and again.
right. Not just the domain, the medium that we were handling was
Okay,
also
okay.
quite like, it was only newspaper and
Newspaper.
magazine
Okay.
advertisements,
Hmm.
a couple
Hmm.
of radio jingles here and there,
Okay.
and that's about it.
Right. Right.
People were not exploring different media. Nowadays, you are playing video games on your
Hmm.
phone, and you also see some advertisements related
There.
to real estate,
Yes.
which
Yes.
wasn't
Yes.
happening around that time.
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
technology definitely changed these patterns. And
Right.
yeah, but
Right.
then I had shifted to advertise to IT.
By
Like,
then. Right.
yeah, I think I shifted to around 2001 2002. I
Right.
started doing some freelance work, and around that time I started getting some manuals that were
Mm-hmm.
written by Chinese engineers, which needed a language uplift. And that's how I
Oh.
actually ended
Okay.
up becoming a tech writer.
Wow.
Because even to correct the grammar, you can't just do a copy edit job there, right? You have to
Right.
understand what's being said, and
True.
only
True.
then you can decide which article is to be used. Is
Hmm.
this
Hmm.
the plan, or is
Or
it
is
a
it a
plan, or
plan?
is what is it? So
Right.
you had to really understand the context a lot, and
Hmm.
then only you could do the language edit. So I
Right.
started doing that, and they understood that, okay, I have a curious mind and I keep asking questions, and then
Mm-hmm.
they started hiring me as a writer rather
Oh.
than just a proofreader or a copy editor. So
Great.
that
Great.
was actually the
Uh,
transition.
Okay, great, great, great to know that. So, my first question, Mugdha, is that you have been now practicing design thinking for quite a while now, many years, right? And you have also been training others in that same
Yeah,
thing, right? So I
right.
would like to know that, even though you were in a creative field, right, how design thinking, or it's learning design thinking and then applying it, implementing it, have have given you new perspectives about whatever
Right,
you have been
right.
doing. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely does give you many new perspectives. For
Mm-hmm.
example, when I started my journey in design thinking, this was around 2014, 2015 that we started hearing the term a lot.
Right.
And then, so I used to read about it.
Mm-hmm.
I used to talk to a few people who were doing something in design thinking,
Mm-hmm.
maybe something very small, but then they were involved actively in design thinking. I started seeing notifications about ads, about some design thinking
Courses.
courses and stuff like
Right.
that.
Right.
And then I started working with IBM as an information architect. And then there
Mm.
I got an opportunity to learn design thinking in a very constructive way. I remember it was like, just the first couple of months at IBM, and
Mm-hmm.
they said that somebody from Texas, USA is coming to teach us about design
Design
thinking.
thinking.
And it was supposed to be a 5-day workshop that my manager made it compulsory for me to attend. I
Okay.
had no clue what that
What it?
workshop is going to be.
Mm.
And I ended up sitting for that workshop without much of a background or context.
Hmm.
But then when I started hearing about it from the trainer, and then they shared um, some learning resources. IBM Software Labs is rich with learning resources, and
Okay.
it's like just the sky is the limit. If you want to
Mm-hmm.
learn about
Mm-hmm.
something, the sky is the
Great.
limit
Great.
when it comes to IBM's way of giving you access to
Mm-hmm.
various information points. So I
That's great.
started learning about design thinking in 2015,
Mm-hmm.
and from there it literally grew on me because I realized that it is easier for a team
Mm-hmm.
to have a common language when you are trained in design thinking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The collective thinking of a team
Mm-hmm.
becomes way more effective if you're following design thinking.
Mm-hmm.
The confusion that is often seen in the IT world,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the Scrum teams, because we keep iterating and
Right.
moving forward.
Right.
Um,
Right.
there is a lot of rework involved sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
That is reduced considerably if you follow design thinking. So all
Mm-hmm.
these changes were very evident. And
Mm-hmm.
I also started realizing that at an individual level, I personally feel that design thinking is way more effective at the team level. But
Mm-hmm.
even at an individual level, you get a language of um, communicating about your thought process with the
Mm-hmm.
person in front of you, even if that person is not from the same field, even if you and that person, you both haven't shared a common experience about the topic that you're discussing.
Mm-hmm.
Even then, it's easy for you to communicate what your thinking is,
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of helps the person to be with you on board. So
Right.
two brains are then suddenly onboarded because you
Right.
could effectively talk about it. So that is
Mm-hmm.
definitely the greatest advantage of design thinking, I would
Wow.
say.
Greatly explained. Mugdha, what I would like you to talk a little more about, what step of design thinking you think enables the team, or as you explained, that two people, they get on board on a one theme or on one particular context, you could say. So what is it exactly, which phase of design thinking enables a person to
Right. So
express?
at least there are like 5 different variations in design thinking.
Yeah, many
As far as
actually.
I know, yeah,
Right.
many actually. But
Hmm,
then
hmm,
the
But the
5 that are
four,
used more
right.
in the
Hmm.
industry, maybe.
Right, right,
I
right.
know only those.
Hmm.
But then even if you look at them, like IBM calls it converge and diverge. I think others
Okay.
might be calling it differently, but
Right,
I
right.
will use the terms that we use in IBM's enterprise design thinking. So
Yes,
in
yes.
that, there is a process called converge and diverge.
Right.
So what is that process?
Hmm.
Whenever you are in one step of design thinking, say for example, empathy,
Hmm.
if you are in the empathize
Hmm.
stage
Hmm.
and you are trying to empathize with the person who is maybe your user, your reader,
Hmm.
whoever,
Hmm.
essentially the target audience
Right.
that you have in mind for the solution. So when you're trying to empathize with them,
Hmm.
the first stage is you have to diverge. All of you
Right,
go in
right,
your silos and
right.
individually write down what you think are the things that the user is saying, doing, maybe feeling and
Hmm.
thinking,
Hmm.
their pain points, their gain points,
Points.
the
Right.
existing scenario. You
Hmm.
are just trying to list all the things that you are observing in the current scenario
Hmm.
with that target audience in mind.
Right.
How are they interacting with the world around
Pro-
them in the
hmm.
context of whatever feature or product you are
Product that you
developing?
are, right.
Right. So you are trying to empathize. Now,
Hmm.
in that, you are trying to empathize at an individual level. So
Right.
I am writing down my observations, somebody is writing down their observations.
True.
In a team, you would have around 7 people at least.
Right.
When they all come together,
Hmm.
obviously there are going to be a few observations that are common to
True.
all.
True. True.
So when you converge, you first understand what is that common
Hmm.
denominator,
Right.
right? So
Right.
that is something that you understand, and you are
Hmm.
like, oh, okay, I did not
I
think
didn't
about
think
this,
about.
but I
Hmm.
agree with it.
Hmm. Hmm.
I did not think about it because I do not feel that this
Feel.
is right.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then there are those discussions which entail, which actually take you all on a common ground, and
Right.
you form a common vision about
Hmm.
your audience in the empathy stage.
Hmm.
Then
Hmm.
you define the problem in the
Right.
next stage. So
Right.
around that, again, you diverge, you do your own thinking, you
Hmm.
come together, converge, and again, you do a common thinking and
Right.
you validate your thinking with your team members.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
in all this converge and diverge
Hmm.
scenarios, you
Hmm.
start getting that common language. What I've
Right.
also seen is, like,
Hmm.
if you do a couple of projects with the same team,
Hmm.
by following design thinking
Hmm.
methods,
Hmm.
the efficiency of the team increases with time.
Right.
With
Right.
each iteration, you become very well equipped to understand what benefits to get from each other,
Each other.
who can
True.
bring what value to the table,
Right.
and that way then the efficiency really builds.
Yes, exactly. Great, great. So, this is what, like, that will be more interesting for our audience to understand, that if we are not using design thinking vis-a-vis when we are using design thinking, what is that difference that,
Right.
comes in? So, if, like, the same scenario, whatever you took, if people are not using design thinking, then what exactly happens? It must be a chaos, or you have seen both the sides, so I would like you
Yeah,
to talk
yeah.
about it.
There is chaos,
Hmm.
definitely, but the chaos in design, actually, to be honest, I feel the chaos is in the creation. So the process of
Process,
creating something,
right.
yeah, it
It
the
itself
process itself is
is
chaotic.
right,
Yeah.
right.
So even when you follow design thinking, the process is going to be a little chaotic,
True.
but all that chaos is brought to the table. You
Hmm.
look at it.
Hmm.
Once you know what mess you are dealing with, it's
Hmm.
easy to untangle the mess.
Right, right,
In the
right.
traditional process or the conventional approach of,
Hmm.
one person taking shots for one phase, let's say,
Hmm.
uh,
Hmm.
first of all, we don't follow a very good pattern. We
Hmm.
don't follow it consistently.
Hmm.
Every time a new team member comes in, the pattern changes a little. You don't know how to deal with that pattern, and
Right,
a lot of time goes in needless frictions,
right, right,
right? So
right.
that kind of adds to the mess that's already there on the table.
Hmm.
These interpersonal issues and
Right.
other environmental issues,
Right.
the situational issues,
Hmm.
they get added to the table. They get
Right.
added to the mess.
Hmm.
So for me, I felt that when it's design thinking, all these outlying emotions you have for a project, say
Hmm.
for example, there are you have some instincts, you
Hmm.
have some instinctive feeling about what your users need, or
Hmm.
what this technology is going to help you solve or not solve.
Hmm.
You have some take on everything,
Right.
but in a conventional project execution,
Next. Hmm.
you don't say everything out loud.
Right.
You
Right.
don't, because you don't want to delay the process. You
Hmm.
just want to get done with it. So
Right.
you are trying to hurry towards the goal. In
Right.
design
Right.
thinking, you are taking your own time,
Hmm. Hmm.
because you know that you are not going to take too much time. You know what kind of time should be allocated to thinking, and
Right.
how much time should be allocated to execution.
Right.
That
Right.
kind of
Me.
clarity is not there in the conventional method.
Hmm.
So a
Hmm.
lot of issues, a lot of instinctive feelings
Hmm.
about something are showed down the carpet. They are never
Right.
brought to the light. And because
True.
of that, when the solution gets created, you already know what are the defects in the solution.
Right.
You
Right.
already know what are the shortcomings, and you are already prepared to start getting in the troubleshooting mode immediately after delivering the
It
solution. So
is.
yeah,
Right.
it is
Right.
ironic, but
Hmm.
yeah, it does happen, and we
Right.
all have accepted it as if it's a normal thing to happen.
Happen.
Like, the
Right.
moment you serve a plate full of food,
Hmm.
you are immediately expecting another demand from the
What?
user, like, okay, now I'm eating this, so give me some ghee, give me
Hmm.
some pickle, give me some chutney. You are expecting that feedback, and you are ready to work more.
Right.
That
Right.
won't happen
Hap-
so often if you
if you
have
use.
already empathized with the user.
Right.
You already know that, okay, this user needs
Right.
all these things, so you'll be
Right.
better equipped, and you
Right.
will be serving a plate full of food that the user actually wants, not
Right.
what you could
Exactly.
create,
Right.
but what they actually wanted. So
Right.
that's the difference
What a
between the
wonderful
traditional
analogy,
method
Mugdha.
and
Yes,
thank
yes,
you.
yes, yes, yes. Great, great. Because, this is one misconception that generally I have observed among people, that, because there are so many processes that you follow, or stages, I would say, in design thinking,
Hmm,
people tend to believe that it's very time consuming process
hmm,
and
hmm.
resource consuming process. But the example that you've just narrated right now, it actually highlights or underlines that, it's just a myth. It actually saves so much of time, because whatever you are going to face afterwards, if you don't use it, then whatever resources that you will need, whatever time that you will need to reinvent whatever you have already created, is definitely going to be more expensive and more time consuming than if you
Exactly,
use
exactly.
the design thinking methodology, right? Great,
Right.
great, Mugdha. I really think that, all the audience, they are enjoying, and they are really getting so many different perspectives about whatever they already probably. So people, those who are already in design thinking, they are also able to relate it. Those who want to know what it is and what are the benefits, I'm sure even they are getting benefited listening to this discussion of ours.
If you think the information that I am sharing is helpful to you, then please like, share, and subscribe my channel, because one thought can transform many lives. I'll see you next time. Bye.